Alabama always has amazing running backs. Guys like Mark Ingram, Trent Richardson, Eddie Lacy, Derrick Henry, Bo Scarborough, Najee Harris, Damian Harris, Josh Jacobs, and Brian Robinson have all been big-time running back names to go through Tuscaloosa, but this year's guy is more than just a running back. After becoming a late rising recruit, he went to a lower-level Power 5 school where he became an All-American and one of the most electric players in college football. While Alabama's offense has stalled this year, he has really been the lone bright spot, has put the team on his back, and has a chance at the Heisman Trophy. In today's video, we're obviously going to be talking about Jahmyr Gibbs, and we're going to go through his story, his time at Georgia Tech, what he's done at Alabama, and what my expectations are for the future. But before we get into it, we're on the road to 100K, so quickly be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like if you want to support the channel, turn on notifications, and let me know another player or topic I could cover next. Now, let's get started. Going back in time, Gibbs was always a natural athlete, but football was not his first sport. He said, quote, "When I was little, I played basketball first. Then I ran track. I did all those three until my sophomore year, and then I decided to keep playing football." He eventually put all his time and energy into the sport and had some very lofty role models. Those included Barry Sanders, Adrian Peterson, Marshall Faulk, and Jamar Chase. He became a starter for his high school as a sophomore and ran for over 800 yards. He was introduced to the national recruiting world that same year as he played on national television against Justin Fields, and he was a great player, but not a prodigy by any means. For quite a long time, he was just your typical 3-star running back at Dalton High School in Georgia, but after one huge season, he blew up into a top 100 player. He ran for over 1,400 yards and 20 touchdowns as a junior, did well at camps, and impressed coaches with his personality. That's why he chose to stay home and play for the Power 5 local school, Georgia Tech. In May of 2019, he chose the Yellow Jackets over the likes of North Carolina and Michigan, but as I said, he was only a 3-star prospect then and a diamond in the rough. They had found one of those hidden gems, but pretty soon Gibbs began to shine, and many wondered if he was destined to play at an even higher level. He took his play to the next gear his senior year as he led the entire state of Georgia with 2,554 rushing yards and 40 touchdowns. This happened in the 2019 season, and he became a blue chip recruit from there, but that process did not just come from natural skill alone. His coach said, quote, "Jahmyr played last year at 175 pounds, but he was determined to make himself the best he could possibly be, so he worked to add 20 pounds of muscle this offseason. What he's done is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. He's gotten bigger and faster. He could always run outside, but now he's just as good between the tackles." That hard work paid off as he gained over 28 scholarship offers from schools such as Alabama, Florida, Ohio State, LSU, and USC. He took many official visits there and considered pretty much every school. Some thought he would flip, others thought he would stay loyal. So, what would he do? Well, he had a signing day ceremony and sat at a table with 3 hats. One from LSU, one from Florida State, and one from Georgia Tech. He'd pick one of those hats. Which one would it be? Well, he made the crazy choice to stay a Yellow Jacket. And why did he do this? He had one reason. Quote, "The coaching staff. They have a lot of energy and I vibe with all the players. They were cool, and nobody was like, 'Who is this dude?' or 'What is he doing here?' Everybody was nice, and it is like I've already been there. Coach Jeff Collins and Coach Tashard Choice are great people. Coach Choice began recruiting me my junior year and stayed on me." So my takeaway from that is that he was loyal to the first big school that pursued him, and he loved the family atmosphere and culture of Georgia Tech. This also paid dividends to Jeff Collins. This was by far his biggest recruiting win as a head coach, and he was going to get a chance to play right away with the Yellow Jackets in 2020, but with that came extremely high expectations from both the fan base and the college football world. Despite those expectations and big offers, Gibbs wanted to represent a school with class, and that is why his coach was not at all surprised he stuck with Collins. His coach said, quote, "Considering the type of person Jahmyr is, I wasn't surprised he decided to stay with Georgia Tech and Coach Collins. He felt very comfortable with the coaches, the players, and what they represent. He's going to do great things there." That pretty much sums it all up, and he was a big deal according to 24/7 Sports. He was a 4-star recruit, the number 8 running back, and the 76th best player in the class of 2020. Now, it was time for him to see the field. He would arrive as part of a 1-2 punch that included fellow running back Jordan Mason. Gibbs would have a really special freshman year. In his first game against UCF, he ran for 66 yards and had his first career touchdown. In week 2 against Syracuse, he had his first 100-yard game and also had a receiving score. While he did struggle in his next 4 games, he went out in 2020 with a bang. In a win over Duke, he ran the ball 6 times for 91 yards and had 2 touchdowns in the process. He was also a factor in the passing game. Unfortunately, he'd go down with an injury, and this would end his season after only 7 games. How would he do? Well, he ran the ball 89 times for 460 yards and 4 touchdowns, while also catching 24 passes for 300 yards and 3 scores. Not only did he do that, but he also returned kicks and punts and was a guy who was featured in trick plays. After that freshman year, he became only the 7th Power 5 player since the year 2000 to have 450 rushing yards, 300 receiving yards, and 200 kick return yards in a team's first 8 games. The tone was set. After that injury, he had this to say about the program heading into 2021. Quote, "It was fun, but the season didn't go the way we wanted it to go. This year we made big improvements from last year. We got transfers that are better, we got better games, we got more discipline too." That take didn't go so well, as Georgia Tech did not do very well in 2021. Gibbs himself did, but after a Week 1 home loss to Northern Illinois, the season was already basically over. They did almost beat Clemson in Week 3, but really the only notable moment of the year came as they upset number 21 North Carolina, who ended up not even being that good. Gibbs, on the other hand, was a star. He was seemingly the top option in every single game, despite pretty limited carries. He ended up finishing with 746 yards rushing, with 4 touchdowns on the ground. He also caught 35 passes for 500 yards and 2 scores, and once again returned both kicks and punts. We also have to remember that Georgia Tech was abysmal. They ended up going 3-9, the offensive line was terrible, and the offense did not perform. So everyone knew where the ball was going, and Gibbs still managed to put up great numbers. He was rewarded for that, as he was named an All-American as an all-purpose player. He led the ACC with an average of 150.4 all-purpose yards per game, and he scored a touchdown in 3 different ways. He's one of those guys that literally did everything despite having nothing working with him, and that's why big-time programs wanted him. He saw the writing on the wall, and eventually decided to enter the transfer portal. I assume pretty much every school in the nation went after him, but pretty quickly he found himself at home at Alabama and committed to coach Nick Saban. Gibbs would end up beating out both Roydell Williams and Jace McClellan for the starting running back job, and he has done nothing but impress so far. In the first game against Utah State, he carried the ball 9 times for 93 yards. He'd have a good game against Texas. While he only ran the ball for 22 yards, he caught 9 passes for 74 yards and a touchdown out of the backfield, and helped bail out Bryce Young in the offense in a 20-19 win over the Longhorns. The following week, he'd have 4 carries against UL Monroe and would have a touchdown in the receiving game. The same thing would happen against Vanderbilt, as Saban would play the backups in blowout wins, but Gibbs had 3 straight games of scoring a touchdown through the air. Then the Arkansas game happened. In a game against an Arkansas team that many thought was going to be good, Gibbs would put the team on his back. Bryce Young had obviously gotten hurt, and Gibbs took advantage of this. He ran the ball 18 times for 206 yards and 2 touchdowns, and had multiple highlight plays in the second half, and was even clocked at 22 miles per hour in their win. Gibbs had really been the lone bright spot in this year's offense, as the receivers were underachieving and now Young was hurt. Against Texas A&M, Jalen Miller would struggle as he had 4 turnovers, but Gibbs would help them win the game. When they needed big plays the most, Gibbs ran the ball 21 times for 154 yards and helped them win 24-20. So far through the year, Gibbs has 532 yards on the ground with 2 touchdowns and then 3 touchdowns in the receiving game. He's also a factor in the special teams game, has arguably been the team's most consistent receiver, and is constantly making big plays. While his rushing stats may not pop off the page, while only having 2 rushing touchdowns is a huge detriment to his Heisman chances, his big play ability and his role in this team is definitely very notable, and right now, I think he'll be the focal point of this offense for the remainder of the season. I made a video over the summer talking about how Gibbs could win the Heisman at this spot, and right now, he looks like Bama's best bet for it. Either way, I think he's more than likely going to be a 1st or 2nd round pick in this year's draft to be a 1,000-yard running back and could be the best overall all-purpose offensive player in college football this year. He went from not winning any games at Georgia Tech to now becoming the focal point of arguably the biggest program in the nation. Jahmyr Gibbs has a great comeback story, and his story is nowhere near over. But what do you guys think? If you're an Alabama fan, what do you think of Jahmyr Gibbs? What are your expectations for the remainder of the season? And what player or topic should I cover in my next video? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.